Hi, and welcome to this episode of Our Guest Is, presented by My East Coast Experience Media in partnership with RBC. Our Guest Is introduces us to a resilient group of people typically called immigrants, but perhaps better described as entrepreneurs, community builders, and survivors. In each episode, we'll be hearing all about their journeys to Canada's East Coast in their own words. Today, our guest is Aris Hernandez. Thank you so much for joining us, Aris.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
I just wanted to do a little background before we get into it. You're originally from Mexico and you came to Halifax in 2011. And you came to Canada at the age of 17 to finish high school, which I definitely want to talk about. And you attended Mount Saint Vincent University with a focus on business, tourism, and marketing. And you now work as an international student recruitment officer for the Mount. Correct?
Yes.
And you were honored as one of the most inspiring immigrants in Atlantic Canada in 2021. Aren't you like 12? Aren't you a little young to be inspiring?
I don't know how I'm being so lucky to be able to be recognized to be one of the most inspiring immigrants in the Maritimes, actually. It has been a great opportunity for me to be able to learn from other folks as well that are inspiring the community as well. And I think that I'm thankful, and it helps me thrive as well to keep helping international students and immigrants across Nova Scotia and the Maritimes as well for them to be able to succeed.
Yeah, that's great. And why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about your journey to Atlantic Canada? And I mean, I do want to get into how you were 17 in high school and coming to a totally new place, but let's just start from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was very lucky when my family was able to tell me, hey, you know what, there's an opportunity for you to be able to go to Canada and finish your grade 12. And, sometimes, unfortunately, the situations back home can be a little bit difficult and dangerous in terms of safety. And so decided to actually, come to Canada and actually study here, grade 12. When I came over here, I was very comfortable. I felt safe. I felt that I belonged here. And so when I realized that was an opportunity, I decided to take the courses that I needed for me to be able to graduate and go into university, right? So chemistry and English, like English 12 and history.
The fun stuff.
The fun stuff that you have to be able to take in order for you to move into university. And so I came through the Nova Scotia International Student Program, which it's called NSISP, and they, help international students come into the high school system here in Nova Scotia for them to be able to have the experience and, of course, the education as well that they're looking for. So I was able to do that. And after that, when I realized that I did want to come back and I had my courses already and the grades that I needed to pass, although I have to tell you, chemistry was a challenge in English. It was I had to learn a lot of terminology that I had no idea that existed even. And so when that happened, I was able to go back home for a few months to be able to make some money. I was baking cookies. I learned, so interesting fact. When I was here, with the host family that I was living, they love to bake and bake cookies specifically, right? Mm-hmm. So I did gain about 15, 20 pounds when I was here as an international student, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But I learned how to make peanut butter cookies. And in Mexico, we don't have a lot of peanut butter is not a big thing, right? Okay. And so when I went back home, I kind of opened a little bakery. And so I was making cookies at 6 a.m. every day, and then I will bring them to my old school and to the other schools that I knew, and I will bring peanut butter cookies, and everyone will be like, "Oh, what is this? It's delicious."
Did anyone discover a unknown peanut allergy maybe because of your cookies?
I thought about that after, to be honest, and thankfully there was no allergies at that point. But it was a great experience for me to be able to make some money on the side, and for me to be able to get ready to come to university, because it can be, coming from Mexico and the exchange to Canadian dollars, it can be a little bit more expensive, right? So I was able to save up some money, and then I came to university, to Mount Saint Vincent University, a very proud alumni from the university. And ever since then, I've been sticking around here. Mm-hmm. I completed my Bachelor of Business Administration at Mount Saint Vincent University. And once I was able to do that, I've been working a lot around the international education world, with international students in private language school, with EduNova, with Dalhousie as well, in a sort of a different role, and now with Mount Saint Vincent University.
Oh, excellent. And I mean, I think high school for anyone is a challenging time, so I can only imagine not being from here, born and raised, and now you're just thrown into a high school environment at the most awkward age of anyone's life, and you experienced some cultural challenges when you arrived in Halifax. Can you elaborate on those challenges and maybe how heightened they were because you were so young compared to maybe someone immigrating here, in their 30s with a family?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that there's two components in my situation, right? So I'm very open and I'm openly gay. So I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm very proud of that. And at the same time, I was an immigrant at that point and an international student. And when I arrived, I felt very safe in terms of, I could be whoever I wanted to in the high school in comparison to back home, right? And there's very different stages where the acceptance has happened. Now, in terms of friendships and making connections in high school was a little bit more challenging in the way that everyone already had their own cliques. Everyone already had their own little groups, right? And so I was hanging out mostly with the international students, which I love to do because we were able to bond. We were in the same sort of boat. Everyone came from different country by themselves to study here in a completely different language sometimes. And so having that experience helped us, bond really well. But at the same time, we wanted to have that Canadian, student experience. And so the NSISP, Nova Scotia International Student Program, has a body program, and now they have many other type of programs that help integrate that, have that bridge between international students and Canadian students, which is fantastic. And so during my time, we had the buddy program, and it was actually very helpful because I was able to make a couple of friends, and we will hang out. And still, it wasn't as much of the socialization that you will see in movies and whatnot, right?
Dawson's Creek and all that.
Exactly. But at the same time, I understand as well that it's reality, and sometimes that cannot happen. So we were able we push ourselves to make Canadian friends. And I remember talking to my other Mexican friends. Will be okay. On Tuesday we are gonna try and find a new Canadian friend, and we will try to challenge ourselves to and put the effort to be able to do that. And so sometimes we will succeed, sometimes we wouldn't. And again, it's just because there's already that click, right? And I think that the biggest change for me was feeling very comfortable and very safe being myself in Canada and being who I want to be, not having to hide that I'm gay, not having to hide that I'm, a proud member of the community as well.
And you mentioned the safety aspect of it too. So where you grew up in Mexico, you didn't think you could be safely, openly gay. So can you share that experience of growing up there and how you were feeling, realizing your sexuality and how different it felt, when you came to Halifax?
Totally. I mean, when I realize, you start having those thoughts, right? When you're very young, 11, 12. And so I'm like, hey, I'm different. I'm it's not that I'm not normal. Everyone is normal. I'm just different in the way that I love and I care. And so when I started having those feelings, I realized other people as well and the way that they interact with others, and from walking past churches and how people will interact with each other. And I'm like, if I interact with these people, how will they react knowing that I'm different, right? And so I started knowing more people in my city in Mexico, and not feeling very comfortable for me to be able to be open. And I wasn't open until I left to my three best friends who were very supportive, and I love, shout out to them. But in terms of safety, if people knew that you were gay, you will be bullied. You will be, especially in the high school that I was in, the environment is very much so male dominant and very religious as well, to a certain extent, where you learn about, the religious faith.
Is it Catholic?
Yes,
yeah,
it will
okay.
have been Catholic, yeah. So as a private school, there's a lot of that aspect. And so I did feel not safe and not comfortable for me to be able to share who I was until the last minute that I left, and I'm like, okay, I'm gay, bye. So, but in all honesty, there is a lot of people like that are not able to be themselves, and that is just within the concept of the community that I was surrounded. If you were talking to public in general and safety in Mexico is just not safe for you to be gay, because you will be targeted. You will be targeted for assault. You will be targeted for robbery and so on and so forth as well. In my city specifically, Mexico City, completely different story, but I'm from the southeast of the country in the Gulf of Mexico and in Veracruz. So of course there has been a lot of progress in terms of how people are accepting it, but still it's a religion heavy country, which I respect. Everyone has their beliefs, and that's fantastic. And there will be some times where people will not feel safe to be out just because of who they are.
And you had mentioned previously that you felt like you had to be macho. I mean, what was that like to just struggle with what you have to be on the outside compared to what's going on the inside?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the interesting part about this as well is that everyone in the community has a different personality, right? And I think that when I'm talking like myself right now, and I'm who I am right now, but sometimes when you're young and you're trying to discover who you are, you find people around you, or you try to see someone or look out for someone that might be able to be your guidance. And so when you are trying to find who you are in the community, you don't know how you want to act. You don't know if you are comfortable to say I'm gay or whatnot around people. And so I always had to be with my friends, like, hey, what's up, bro, and kind of those things, which I don't use the word bro, to be honest.
Good
but
to know.
Yes, no, I don't. Just to clarify to everyone on this podcast. But in terms of feeling that I had to act someone that I wasn't, it was really difficult for my safety, for the friendship that I had, because I didn't want to be outcasted as well.
Yeah, or people to kind of go, what's going on with him? Or, that maybe you have to feel like you have to explain or divert attention away from what's going on inside, right?
And there were multiple times that happened, right? And so you're just like, oh yeah, no, it's all good, I'm just, and that's where a lot of depression, anxiety, and everything will happen as well, right? And you're trying to deal with those challenges on top of the other challenges that you have as someone who is trying to find who they are as a gay person.
Yeah, and going into the depression topic, and I did read that you had mentioned during your first year as a student at the Mounts, you struggled through dark times. Can you share a little bit about what was going on at that time?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happens is, as an international student, like I mentioned, during high school and any education that you go through, it can be challenging because you are isolated to a certain extent. When you first arrive, although as welcoming as Mount Saint Vincent is and any other university, you still find yourself not being able to have someone right away to be able to trust, and it takes time to be able to make those connections, right? And thankfully, Mount Saint Vincent University has amazing supports, and I'm not biased. I truly love the team that works there at the International Center, because they became my family. They became the people that I was able to talk to, and it takes time to be able to build that trust. But it happened for me, within months, and I was very appreciative. But at the same time, I arrived in January, and so there was a small orientation, and I met a few other students, which was fantastic. But at the same time, it was during winter, and when you're here arriving, trying to make connections, it's really hard. So I do remember that it was challenging to be able to make those connections. But thankfully, after, I will say, a couple of months, I felt started to be welcome into Mount Saint Vincent University, and I knew that I belonged to that university at that point.
And you were seeking some counseling too, and what doors did that open for you? Yeah,
well, to clarify, and I'm very open to say that during my 4 years I seek counseling, and that is just because of depression and anxiety. It's a disease that is there in your mind, right? And so with all medications and everything, it's great help, but at the same time, it's always good to have someone to talk to. And so I sought counseling for that entire time, and it was just a good way for me to be able to not bottle things up, to talk from studies, personal life, professional life, anything that was going on in my life, for me to be able to talk about it. And that helped a lot. And understanding as well that I wasn't the only one, because I did feel, oh man, like I'm gay, I'm, you know, an international student, I'm going through studies, you know, like it's in a different language. Like I felt that it was just a lot of stress. And so talking to someone in the counseling helped me not compartmentalize that. And at the same time, it helped me understand as well that, you know, it's not that they will disclose, hey, you know, I just had a student that had the same situation. It's just, you know, like, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
They will let you know that you're not the only one going through these. And although everyone is in a different boat, you know, they still are going through some challenges as well. And so somehow that makes you feel okay, that you're not the only one struggling. And so you relate to these strangers that you don't know.
You currently work as an international student recruitment officer at the Mount, and we were talking about this before the mics went live. Tell us a little about your role. I know you were just in the Caribbean. We're so jealous of you right now. So, you know, tell us about the role and why it's important to have international student recruitment officers at university, especially for Atlantic Canada.
Yeah. Well, I think that international student recruitment officers truly are I call myself the website, the Saint Vincent University.ca website, like on wheels kind of thing, right? Because I have to learn everything that it's on the website for me to be able to tell the students and help them. And so we are more than anything a guide. Every recruitment officer out there is a guide for the students to be able to ask any questions, to understand what kind of program they're able to complete in the university that they want to accomplish. And I think that one of the things that I really do like about Nova Scotia, and I'm not trying to sell here in Nova Scotia, but I am at the same time, is, you know, we have this collegiality between all of the universities to be able to make sure that everyone is successful. And the students are successful when they come over here, and also that, you know, we help each other when we're on the road as well, to be able to say, you know, hey, Saint Vincent University has this program, Dalhousie has this program, St. Mary's University has this program. You know, like we work together to make sure that we're bringing, you know, students to Nova Scotia for them, and at the same time in the Maritimes as well, because UPEI and many other institutions from around the Maritimes are here, are you know, have international recruiters as well. So, like I said, it's important for us to be there, because sometimes when you're in country, you want to have that connection online. As much as I love the technology that we have been able to develop over the past few years, nothing beats to be able to talk to a student and their parents one-on-one and be able to tell them, you know, we have these programs, the student is going to feel safe on campus, you know, we have security, we have everything that they want to know for them to be able to have that conversation in person versus online. So
I imagine a parent would be pretty nervous.
Yes.
You know, not just your kids going to university in general, but you know, you're going on a plane and I don't know when I'll see you again. And what is that city like? Yeah. So to meet you must be a bit of a relief.
Yeah, totally. And I do have to say that it helps that I have that experience as well as an international student, and letting them know that, you know, it's okay. It's a
look at me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, like they will be able to succeed. There's opportunities for them, and you know, like Nova Scotia is thriving right now in many ways in the education world, in the, you know, professional sector. There's a lot of stuff happening on the IT sector as well. So there's a lot of opportunities that are possible for international students, and I think that's where, you know, I'm able to tell the students, you know, I was like yourself. I was like you many years ago. But at the same time, I want to let them know that there's an opportunity for them to be able to succeed in Nova Scotia, and many of them do feel inspired to feel that.
Have you met in your travels any other LGBTQ2 plus potential international students that, you know, I don't know if they would be comfortable enough to have that conversation with you in those sort of expo situations where you're standing at a booth and talking about how great the Mount is? Is that something that comes up in conversation where you have the opportunity to say, I know exactly what you're going through, and don't worry, it's going to be okay?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, there was the countries that I visited, it might not be as accepting, if we could say. But at the same time, there was one situation that I did see a student where they come and they said, hey, I've done a lot of research on Saint Vincent University. I really like it. I think that it's very, you know, like it's very cool, the steps that they're taking forward to make sure that it's an accessible institution, as well as, you know, there's a lot of equality and whatnot that is available for students. And so they did ask, the student asked, like, is the school LGBTQ plus friendly, like I have seen on the website? And I'm like, yes. I felt on a very personal note, I felt very relieved when the student was able to ask that in a country where it is not accepting, where it is not safe for them to be able to be who they are. So I related a lot with them.
Good.
And yeah, it was a good experience for me to be able to have a conversation and let them know that they can be safe at Mount Saint Vincent University. So
yeah, you're gonna make me cry.
I know, I'm
Yeah,
trying not to hear.
because the struggle is real, I guess. I know people say that and they try to be funny, but you put yourself in someone else's shoes, and especially a young kid, and in maybe a situation like that, and you just think, how horrifying, and why can't we all be tolerant? And, sharing that experience with them must change their life, even if they don't come here to study.
Yeah.
Just to talk to you and know, like, that classic, it's going to be okay. It is going to be okay,
Yeah,
if you move away.
exactly.
If you come to Canada, Atlantic Canada, and study and talk to people like you. Yeah. That's very inspiring. I mean, with steps that can be taken to ensure that LGBTQ2 plus international students and immigrants can feel safe and welcome in Canada, what steps do you think can be taken? Are we doing okay here, or do you think there can be more done?
Well, it's something that it's tricky for me to answer because I do not know in general what other institutions might be doing, or, in general, the government, internally. But what I can tell you, it's, attending Pride this year for the first time after COVID, it made me feel like, it made me feel alive. It made me feel that, there is supports out there, that there is opportunities for people to be who they are. And the most important part is for immigrants to come to Nova Scotia and to Atlantic Canada and to realize that they can be who they want to be, and if they want to be proud of it, that they can do so as well. It took me a very long time for me to feel comfortable to say I'm gay in front of a microphone in a podcast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that this is exactly what helps others, and hopefully I will be able to help someone out there that is an immigrant in the Maritimes that is struggling with being gay. So, like, I want to be that inspiration for them to say that it's okay for you to be gay, and it's okay for you to be part of the queer community, whoever you choose to love.
And you had, experience with counseling. Do you think that it is easy for, openly gay international students to seek and access counseling, or is there maybe a barrier there for them, whether it's mentally or just it's not available?
Right. I believe that every institution will have the supports available in the Maritimes, and I think that it's something that definitely international students who identify as part of the queer community, it's something that they should definitely seek out, because, even though they think that, there's always, in different cultures, there's always a different perspective when it comes to psychiatry, psychologists, counseling, because there is the stigma of like, if you need that, it's because you're in a really bad mental state and you're going to be judged with that. So that's another thing as well, understanding that here in Canada, it's very normal to talk about going to a psychologist and talking about anxiety and depression. And we are still breaking the stigma. But since I arrived, it has changed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that the students that are struggling should definitely seek that help, even though your mental, in your mind, you're telling yourself that you are doing something that is going to ruin your life. It's not. It's going to actually improve your quality of life.
Yeah, like something you should be ashamed of.
Exactly.
And you're so right. I feel like maybe because of the pandemic, where we put an increased attention on mental health. Like, now, you're isolated because you have to stay at home, and, you have to work from home, and all of those challenges. And it has changed. I feel like in the last 3 years, it's definitely been more of a conversation about, I'm going to my therapist today. I had a therapist appointment today, almost like going to the dentist.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny how the shame is melting away a lot. So back to your passion for connecting with people, here when you moved here, when you came back to attend university, and now you have this passion for connecting immigrants to their new community in Atlantic Canada, if they come here as a student. What kind of support did you receive as you made Halifax your new community?
There was in every stage that I went through, whether it was high school, whether it was, university, whether it was, now as a professional, there has been multiple types of supports. And so I will start in high school. High school was very helpful for me to be able to have a conversation with my homestay coordinators. There will be people that I will be able to trust. And also my homestay, they were lovely, and I really appreciated their support and their love and care. Then, in university, the International Education Center was they just gave me the push. And I have to say, and again, I'm not biased, but Saint Vincent University made me who I am today. And I'm grateful forever, because without them and the people that were working there at the time and the people that became my mentors during the hardest times of my studies and professional life and stress and everything that was going on, they helped me understand how to set up a business. They helped me understand how to be able to be successful. They helped me be part of the international student community and the International Student Society and learn about other cultures as well, because coming from Mexico, I wasn't exposed to many Indian students or many, many Chinese students. And so this time I was able to make some of my closest friends are now from other type of their cultures, and learning about their cultures and experiences, it's what made me open my eyes much more. And, there was also at Nova with the Study and Stay program when I about to graduate with Saint Vincent University. And of course, being part of that project helped me a lot make connections. And so it's a cycle, right?
Yeah.
It's a cycle where now that I'm a professional, I'm trying to give back to the community and help as much as I can. Because now as a professional, I still received a lot of support from the International Education Center at Saint Vincent University and from EduNova and from other organizations as well, where I will seek help for me to be able to understand what processes I need to be able to apply for permanent residency and everything that has to do with immigration, which is another monster in itself.
Another stress, yeah.
Another big stress as
Yeah.
well. But now I'm happy to help in any way that I can the immigrants, especially the LGBTQ2 plus immigrants. And anytime that I meet anyone out there that it's part of the community, I'm like, hey, I know these people, I know that people, I'm gonna try to connect you. And I send email introductions, and I try to make coffee happens, and job sharing as well. It's something that I try to do because I was there and I know how hard it can be to be able to find a job, and it's important to have those connections, because that's the Maritimes. We're known for that. We're known for the connection making, and as we know, a lot of the jobs are not promoted online, and they're not outspoken. They're just by connections.
Yeah, which even being born and raised in Canada, it's all about who you know, right?
Yes.
And to put yourself in the shoes of someone who was not born and raised here, an immigrant, an international student, is like, well, there's a huge challenge there.
Yeah.
What made you stay in Halifax?
Well, I have to say, it's been home now for 11 years. It reminds me of home because of the harbor, the beautiful views that we have right now, which is awesome. And at the same time, I just feel that there is a feeling of community, a feeling of it's a big city yet a small city where everyone knows each other. And I think that there is a really good concept of just feeling safe. And so would I love to experience another city at some point in my life? Maybe. Yeah. And I'm open to the ideas. I don't like big cities, to be honest. I want to be part of somewhere where I can contribute and not just be part of another giant concrete jungle kind of thing.
Yeah. What does your family think? I mean, have they visited you? Do you go back often? Are they just surprised at what your, the last 11 years has unfolded for you?
Yeah, it can be challenging because I am here by myself, right? My family, everyone is in Mexico still, and so I try to see them. And as a divorced family, it can be a little bit tricky for me to organize everything that has to do with seeing everyone. But thankfully, my dad did make it a few years ago to visit for my graduation, so that was a very emotional trip for all of us, and it was the first time for him to come to Canada, so he got the taste of winter for sure.
Yeah.
So that was a good experience for him. But I'm thankful that after COVID, I'm realizing that family is important, and as they age, of course, at an advanced age, my dad, I want to make sure that I'm there for him as well, and hopefully I will be able to see the rest of my family as well soon.
Excellent. Based on your experience as an international student, and now you're here, permanently as a resident, why should an international student study here in Atlantic Canada, and why do you think it's important for our region to attract international students and immigrants to live here? Because that's an ongoing challenge, right? Is to not only make it inviting for international students to study here, but please stay.
Yes.
Please make a difference in our community. And,
Yeah.
why is that important?
Right. In my opinion, I think that there is a big opportunity for international students and immigrants to be able to succeed here. We need people desperately, we could say. I think that there is a lot of demand on that, and so there is opportunities. There's new businesses, new organizations, firms that are coming to Nova Scotia and into the region as well, that are setting up shop here, and they need people as well, and that there is a demand for it. I also think that there is a really good opportunity for the region to explore more about other cultures, and that's one thing that I love about Canada, is that we're really multicultural. We're a multicultural nation, and so there is a good opportunity for remote areas of the area of the region in the Maritimes, for them to be able to understand that hey, there's another culture other than what you have experienced for the past 40 years, 50 years, and I think that this is a really good way of exposing them safely to another world, essentially, for them. So there's the benefit of the cultural sharing. There's the benefit of the economical benefit as well, with all of the organizations that are coming in and the talent that is going to be coming in as well. And I think that it just enhances our communities. Like I feel that there, and I don't know, because I don't have a lot of friends that have babies and kids, but I think that there's when a family comes over here with kids, it enriches the life of other non-immigrant kids, because they will learn about those cultures at that point. And I do remember having a conversation with one of my colleagues, like their kids have, like friends that are from Nigeria and everything. And they talk about how cool it is for them, like from back home, especially at a young age, you're already exposing them to another culture. And I think that that's so important, because truly, like I am a true believer that traveling and learning about other cultures is the best way to relate to others and connect with our community.
Building tolerance too.
Building understanding, patience, everything. All of the values that you need in life to be able to succeed, you will be learning them through traveling, through the cultural exposures that you will receive.
Mm-hmm. If you could redo your immigration to Canada, whether we're looking at coming to high school as the prime example, or when you return to attend university, what's one thing that you would change? Both situations, or either or situations?
Wow. Well, I actually don't think that I will change anything, because it has made me who I am. And if I were to decide something, the only thing that I will change is coming 1 year earlier, like to do grade 11 instead of only grade 12, because, I had English, but it wasn't like these. Like I wasn't able to have conversations like these whatsoever. And so for me to have to take chemistry 12 and all of the courses that I needed to be able to enter university, that was challenging, right? So coming 1 year earlier for me to also adapt to potentially be part of those groups that are already happening in high school, it would have helped a little bit. But at the same time, I think that my journey has been the best thing that has happened to me, and I'm very thankful for it, and every single person that has impacted my life.
And you went to 2 different high schools.
I did, yes.
In 1 year?
Yes.
What happened?
There was a course that I needed to take in another high school for me to be able to meet the requirements to go to Saint Vincent University.
I mean, that, again, is a challenge in itself.
It was, yes.
New people, new teachers, new hallways, new locker combinations.
New homestay, new everything. It was challenging for sure, but at the same time, I think that already the challenge of coming to a brand new country, I was like, well, why throw another challenge in here? Why not? I love challenges.
That shows. Thank you, Aris, and thank you to everyone joining us today for this episode of Our Guest Is. If you don't want to miss the next episode, make sure you subscribe. You can find us on myeastcoastexperience.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube. Plus, don't forget you can follow My East Coast Experience on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thanks again, and hope you join us for our next episode.